Hey, welcome to a new video here on Only Dino. Today I am in Jogja, basically about an hour and a half flight from the capital, Jakarta, and I'm back for the third time at Kustom Fest. And basically this event is all about kind of promoting the local custom culture that exists kind of outside the capital. I mean, Indonesia is a very vast country and there is so much talent in pretty much every region around mainly custom bikes. As you can even hear behind me, the prime mode of transportation in Jakarta, especially in the rural areas, is pretty much on two wheels. So a lot of people customize anything from like 50cc scooters. I even see a lot of classic Vespas and Lambrettas here, which is really cool for me being Italian, to kind of see a little bit of Italy here in such a faraway place. And that pretty much spans into the car culture as well. And I'm here as ever to cover the car portion of the event. Like I mentioned, it's my third time coming here and I kind of seen the progression, and we're basically just going to take a walk through the show, starting here outside the main venue here, which is the Jogja Exhibition Center, JEC, and kind of see what people have been doing the last year since my last visit, and kind of indulge in a very different take to what I usually cover on Dino DC mainly, but you know, kind of celebrating the love for cars, customization and creativity, because I think especially in Southeast Asian countries, people really push creativity to the max in ways that maybe us Westerners don't really kind of envision, mainly pushed by the lack of parts, the need to innovate and just making do with what people have available to them. And that creates something really, really special. And to start things off, I'm just going to start off here in the car park just opposite the main venue here, and there's always a little bit of a display going on out here. For this year we have 3 rat rods slammed down right to the ground, and again kind of showing off what people are able to create with what they have at their disposal. Like I mentioned, you know, you do kind of use what is available to you, and usually when we see hot rods and rat rods and these kind of vehicles are usually running like old school V6s or V8s, but here you find pretty much any sort of engine, a lot of Japanese motors, and it's kind of hard to even understand what the basis of these cars are. Some of them, like this one, are actually running on a completely custom chassis. You can see the rails there notched up to accommodate the rear suspension setup. I'm not sure where this cab they've taken it from, but the effect is something that really is striking. We go on to something a little bit cleaner from SS Custom Cycles, a little bit of a crossover when it comes to culture, two-wheel meeting four-wheel, and it's great to see bike shops kind of creating four-wheeled creations. Really sick, very clean. Check out the metal buckets there, very simple execution. And of course, because this is from a bike shop, there's even a motorcycle kind of perch here hanging off the back, so you can kind of drive around in style while carrying your chopper or another custom bike. Next to it we have something slightly more compact. Again, I really don't know where they get these bases for the cabins, but this is as ratty as it gets. I love this stuff. You can see the propeller shafts literally in the center of the cabin, going right to the back.
Sorry?
Yes.
Yes. This is my friend's. Yeah, mine.
Oh, really?
Here's the builder.
Oh, he's over there?
Yeah. It's different with other.
Right.
It use that one.
So this uses a Vespa engine. Oh my God, you're right. Yeah.
You can see?
So it's a kickstart.
Different.
It's
Yeah.
kickstart. And do you know what the actual cabin is? Like what is this part from? Is it all custom or?
No. This is the second thing that we find from. I think not used.
Yeah.
We
We make everything
like
custom
like
basically.
this.
Amazing. That's crazy.
As in our country, people call us like Arabis.
Right.
Yes. Extreme.
Extreme, yeah.
You
And
can see
it's okay to drive these cars in Indonesia on the road? Is it to get number plates?
If we meet the police,
Yeah.
this one, the police will catch us.
Oh really? It's not
Yeah.
legal?
We ride this at night.
Okay, that's how you get away with it. That's absolutely crazy. A Vespa engine, chain driven onto a little selector gearbox there, and that powers the propeller shaft that runs the rear end. Now, how's that for innovation? a great example of what Indonesian and especially rural car culture is all about.
Thank you, mister. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, awesome.
See you.
So like I mentioned, it's really cool to see how people, you know, kind of take what they have available to them, down to Vespa engines, and create things like that. Going on here, there's a nice Volkswagen camper van, something a little bit more sedate. Of course, this kind of vehicle doesn't get stopped by the police. And then we'll be seeing a lot of kind of off-road vehicles like this Landy, right down to extremely modern stuff. Of course, Mooneyes is a massive brand in all of Southeast Asia. We get to see, you know, the Mooneyes guys come out to shows like Art of Speed and of course Kustom Fest. Actually, Shige from Mooneyes in Japan is over for the event, and we'll probably drop by their booth inside. Again, everything you see is always customized here, right down to cars I have no idea what they're about. Yeah, so I think I'll head inside. Of course, like most custom shows in Southeast Asia, it's all kind of based around having a lot of bands play on the main stage, so it gets very loud in there for pretty much 85% of the time. So I have to find these little gaps in the live music to kind of get my coverage sorted out of all the cars. Compared to last year, however, there are considerably less cars. I heard they didn't have so much time to organize the event this year, but I'm just gonna head through here and start checking what's inside. All right, so the music has quietened down and I'm just gonna get going with the first car area. There's two separate areas on each side of the show this year. So we're gonna start off with this V-twin powered three-wheeler, which is actually made here in Indonesia, kind of replicating what the Morgan three-wheeler was all about, but kind of giving it a variety of styles. As we'll see, there's a few other of these cars on display. You know, owners can customize them and kind of do different takes on either a sporty look, a more kind of luxurious street look like this one. And it's again showing the levels of customization and craftsmanship that can be taken all the way out to actual car production. Next up, and we'll be seeing a lot of air-cooled here. As you can see, there's a couple of Beetles back there. We start off with this beautiful example of a Karmann Ghia. This is a Type 34. I love the color on this. I love the front end design, all that kind of shaped sheet metal. These cars are very, very cool, and I just love the coupe design on these. Such a great looking car, and of course cult following on these. As we move further along, we have another example, different generation. This one's sitting on some Porsche wheels, more simple kind of design, but as we all swing around to the back, you'll see how it gets a little bit more special back there. And then we get into the really, really custom stuff. So always a surprise to see cars like these in Indonesia. And the cool thing is they're actually replicating what, you know, the guys that exhibit cars at the Mooneyes Hot Rod and Custom Show do, and that's create a little display area, kind of a little bit more curated than just dumping a car in the middle of the show hall. This one's really taken a lot of attention to detail, and because of it, it kind of stops people in their tracks. And this is a 1960 Dodge Pioneer, completely customized inside and out. Take a look inside, the custom retrim, completely redone to kind of look far more modern, but kind of retain those classic 60s look. It's a two-seat setup at the back with a massive center console that stretches all the way across the twin rear seats. And then of course in the back is a sound system which most people wouldn't, you know, expect seeing. This is analog as it gets, as a gramophone, and a record player inset there in the back in the trunk. Crazy stuff. Right, as I mentioned, the Karmann Ghia, the silver one, had a little surprise out the back, and that's this crazy exhaust system that pops out from the back. Of course, center exit exhaust, the flat four at the back, creating the perfect layout for a center exit exhaust, be it twin or single like this one. I just love the back of the Type 34 though. It just has that long trunk before it hits that roof line. And it almost looks like it's coming at you behind, like it looks like it's reversed. It looks like this is the front. I mean, it's such a symmetrical car. It could be going forwards or backwards and still look presentable. Of course, the engine is under here. You can see all the venting on the trunk lid. Center exit exhaust. Very, very cool. Right, we keep on progressing through the cars on display here over the PA It continuously gets louder and louder. A couple of bugs, a drop top here, slightly older version here. And the music begins, so I might need to cut and start going through the rest of the car layout later on. Please bear with me, it's not easy. Okay, so we continue the coverage. Now that they're doing the bike awards, it's a little bit quieter, so I'm gonna keep on covering this area of the show, starting off with this Trans Am, unmistakable golden eagle there on the hood. Cool to be seeing some American iron here in Indonesia, of all places. And there was a period back decades ago when a bunch of American cars were imported into Indonesia, and then they kind of locked down the import laws, and whatever stayed here remained here. And that's why you see a lot of older stuff that gets kind of repurposed, customized, rebuilt, and just kept going. We move over to something not American. This is a 1974 Volkswagen, a very unique car to be seeing in the lineup. Really, really well cared for, very fresh inside and out. It even has wraps on the seat to protect that very, very white looking interior. And another thing you'll be noticing is that along with the American stuff, there's a lot of stuff from Australia. So a lot of Holdens, and there's a few here at the show as ever. So we'll continue on looking at other cool stuff here. And we get going with this 1960 Chevy, completely customized. Straight six in there, completely one-off interior here. You can see how they added the air conditioning unit under there, air suspension of course. Really nice tan re-trim all across the interior. Nice highlighted air suspension system here with 2 pumps. And yet another style that you get to see here at this particular event. Single massive wheels. And then we go over to something very Australian. All right, so what we have here is an XB Falcon from Australia, and it's running a Chevy 350, really clean engine bay. They really take a lot of kind of inspiration to what the American custom world is doing with their cars. It's really cool to see how they, you know, get to see what's going on over in the States and kind of try to recreate as close as they can to that unique style. And on we go to something really unique. I didn't expect to see this. This is a 1952 Studebaker. Of course it has rear hinged doors at the back. They actually had it open a while back, so you could actually see all the custom work that's been done on the interior. Really, really clean inside and out. And of course, what makes these cars very, very special is that extremely unique front end, really pointy in the center, no bumper to be seen. You can imagine if you have a bit of an impact with this car, you have to do a lot of bodywork to repair it. So at the end here of this particular side of the show, we have this Torana, another Australian import, running a gigantic supercharger sat atop of this V8. The size of this thing, of course, I would imagine it has a cutout on the hood to actually allow this monster blower to clear and peek through. This engages perched here on the outside of the windscreen, and it kind of reminds me of those crazy burnout cars that the Aussies build and kind of show off at events like Summer Knots. Right, with this side of the show, I'm gonna head right across the hall onto the second car exhibition or area that they have over there, and we'll check out what they have. And to kind of stay true to the whole vlog nature of the videos that I upload here on Dino DC, I'm just gonna keep the video running so you guys can see what Kustom Fest is all about and all the bikes, including bicycles, that are on display here. Like I mentioned, Indonesians love bikes. They live and breathe motorcycles, and they love to customize them every possible. So we got the more classic choppers over here. And there's one that really particularly interested me in another section down here. I think they moved it actually. Yeah, it's gone. It was actually Turbo Harley Davidson. I'm sure it's being awarded something right now. These are the bike awards going on now. We'll come to that later on. Really cool setup. I love seeing turbocharged anything, and even more so if it's actually running on a bike. I always do wonder what the power delivery would be on a turbo bike. Pretty wild. Right over here are all the international guest booths. You got guys like Moon Eyes selling off their things. We got Shige here from Yokohama. Hey Shige-san, enjoying the show?
Yes,
Awesome. Yeah, cool. Take it easy. So actually Shige is a really interesting character. Like, I really appreciate what he's done for the whole custom scene in Japan and across the world. You know, taking on the Moon Eyes brand and expanding it, building it and growing it into something so special that is appreciated worldwide. I mean, he gets so much of a following. Everybody loves Moon Eyes goodies out here in Southeast Asia. And one thing I do plan to do is head to Yokohama Area 1, the main headquarters for Moon Eyes Japan, and kind of chat with Shige, kind of get the background of how the brand evolved after he picked it up in, I believe it was like the mid to late 80s, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's another video I plan to do over on Dino DC. Over here we have the usual tattoo booths. You can get tatted or even pierced. There's a booth doing piercings on the other side. And I'm not going to show you that because it actually freaks me out seeing needles going into skin. So let's avoid that. There's more happening here. This one on the legs. But yeah, just another thing you expect to see over in Southeast Asia. It gets pretty wild here. One thing I do really like about Kustom Fest is seeing all these 70 chopper bicycles customized. So my very first bike probably resembled something like that. Kind of dating myself here. But how cool is it to see these bikes still being cherished, loved and customized to all levels of extremes, right down to trikes and all sorts of other stuff. Right, let's keep going. We're almost at the car section. There's this crazy wolf sculpture here made out of a Volkswagen Beetle and lots of bike tanks. A wild thing. It's absolutely massive. Right, let's get going. So what we have down here, first of all, are the two trikes that I was mentioning before when we were looking at the brown one. So you can kind of get an idea of the styles that you can go for with these. I would say this is more of a performance variant with that kind of brushed stainless steel look. Very simple, black interior. And then we go over to a more classical light blue example here. We got the wired mesh wheels, those old school tires, and that SNS V-twin up front powering the wheels. This is a front wheel drive, by the way. You can actually see the drive shafts there. So you cannot drift it like the Morgan three-wheeler. Over here we have this crazy off-road bug with massive off-road wheels. No big V8 out here like a dune buggy, but it has the original flat 4 on display, contrasting against this kind of ratted out, rusty shell. Pretty dark in there. Yeah, another great example of the customizations that you can see out here in Indonesia. And as ever, when I come to these shows, I'm always asked to pick the Speed Hunters pick for the show. Of course, I do cover these events for speedhunters.com as well. So you can go over and see the photography version of what I'm doing here. And I was given the hard choice to pick something this year. And I had to go for this Chevy C10 truck simply because it kind of reflects what I personally like to see on a custom vehicle, irrespective of what type it is. I like to see performance, and we have that pretty much on check here with this massive V8 boosted by a precision turbo sitting right alongside it. I like how they squeeze the intercooler here between the grille and the radiator. Got the braking in check there with the Brembos, really tidy interior. All the Pro Comp gauges, nicely appointed bench seat, Simpson racing harnesses. We got the air suspension set up, beautifully laid out here on this kind of closable hatch here that pops out from the bed. Tubbed fenders, or rather arches here at the back. You can see how they relocated the air conditioning condenser, other coolers back there. Really cool execution, and this was my pick for Kustom Fest 2024. Right next to the C10 we have another car from Australia. Of course, when I saw this car from the back, I just automatically assumed it was an El Camino, but it's actually a Belmont. A Holden Belmont. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. There's no V8 in here, but rather a straight 6 NA. Pretty cool, tidy interior. And check out how the bed just contrasts the kind of faded, rusty exterior of the car to this beautiful hand-painted and hand airbrushed bed. Pretty sick. Love seeing different stuff. And then we got over to something even more interesting. This is just super sick. So while this actually looks like a Ford pickup truck, it is actually based on a Toyota Crown chassis and powered by a Toyota Crown engine. Now, how wild is that? This kind of perfectly, you know, summarizes what Indonesian custom car culture is all about. You know, making do with what they have available, but obtaining looks that you could never imagine are possible without using, you know, base cars like this kind of rare old school pickup that you would only see in the US. But they've done it, and I do love the exhaust system. Kind of looks like a big rig stacked up vertically. And I do wonder what engine they're running from the crown. Is it the straight six? I don't know. We'll have to see if they open the hood later on. We go over to another Landy. So one outside. Here is a pickup version. And then we go over to probably the cutest car here. This is a Daihatsu Midget three-wheeler. These are the kind of cars that kind of put Japan back on its feet after the war. These were very popular with businesses for deliveries or farmers or working on the fields. Got a little bed here sitting on some moon discs, and check out the little twin side exit exhaust. Super, super cool execution. Suicide doors, and that pointy front end, which totally reminds me of the very first Shinkansen train from the 60s. Right, let's keep moving. We have a massive Chevy truck here, completely customized, amazing paint job. And then we get to the very final car here on display, something that is completely what I would never expect to find in Indonesia. As the bikes are entering and exiting, I don't know what's going on. I think they're doing burnouts. Let's check it out. Yeah, not a clue, but it's so different from shows back home and around the world where you're not even allowed to turn the engine on. Here they do all sorts of wild stuff. But yeah, like I was saying, a 1983 Cadillac Fleetwood, absolutely sick, completely original hubcaps, got the plush interior there, and I'm sure it just glides and bounces as these cars are famed for doing. Right, there is a couple of booths that I want to head to next, and while they do that, they're actually getting the C10 started. I guess they're taking it to the stage to give it the award that I chose, so I might need to head up to the stage myself. But it's cool to actually hear this thing run. I was kind of wondering how that V8 might be muffled with the big turbo. So it still sounds mean. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm gonna walk away from that. Right, so what I was saying, there's two booths I wanted to show you. One is actually the three-wheeler one because they have two more on display. The company is actually owned by Lulu, who is the organizer of Kustom Fest. He's got this shop out here that builds these three-wheelers, and he's doing really well. Every time I come here to the show, there's more and more to be seen. And again, you can kind of get an idea of all the different looks and tastes and flavors that you can go for in these cars. Through the transmission popping out of the dash, kind of like an old Renault, and the pointy tail. And finally, this is what I wanted to show you guys. So this is actually a motorcycle shop that customizes bikes in this manner here. This is actually an electric concept we saw last year as well. Amazing metalwork. Absolutely blows my mind how organic the design is on these creations. And AMS basically kind of started doing things with cars. This is their interpretation of the Porsche Type 64. Of course, this was an old design that remained the design until somebody actually built it decades ago. And it's all hand sculpted aluminium, and of course it has the front and rear wheel covers. Absolutely wild. Everything hand built, all by hand, all shaped by one guy. Pretty amazing stuff. And that pretty much sums up what Kustom Fest 2024 is all about. Mainly bikes, obviously, but it's always fun seeing how the custom culture here evolves and kind of grows as people, you know, try to come up with new ideas, do new things, and just basically surprise. Because if it wasn't for shows like Kustom Fest, there wouldn't be builders striving to do unique things. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Something a little bit different from the norm, and it's been great coming back to Indonesia. I'm actually heading to Jakarta tomorrow, and hopefully I get to shoot some other cool content there. Until next time, make sure you check back soon for more. There's a massive crowd of people here around the bikes that are being driven in. This one's kind of smoking. Check out the custom work done for this one. That's a rear fender right there. Crazy chopper being fueled right here in the middle of the crowd. And there's one more here that is absolutely crazy. Another crazy fender on this one. Again, from AMS Garage, the guys that did the Porsche Type 64. Crazy stuff. I'm no means a bike guy. but you can't help but appreciate the workmanship and the innovation that goes into creating these bikes.